This video is part of a two-part series over paraphrasing, quoting, summarizing, and plagiarism. The idea is that to avoid academic dishonesty, you need to learn how to use your sources properly. The first question is, when do you need a citation in your paper? You need a citation when you use a direct quote. These are words that are taken verbatim or word for word from the original source. In order to cite them properly, you need to use quotation marks and a signal phrase. You also need a citation for a paraphrase. This is a section of a source where you have rewritten it in your own words. This also includes pulling any specific fact or statistic from a source. You may not have paraphrased an entire paragraph or even a sentence, but you have pulled something from a source. This falls under paraphrasing. The last instance is a summary. This is where you have reworded an author's ideas or explained their ideas. So this is typically when you will take a large section of a paper, article, or book and rewritten it in your own words. So you might take an entire book and summarize it into one sentence. We're going to practice all three of these. The first one to practice is a direct quotation. You can pause the video at this point and practice writing a direct quote using the quotation on the screen. You should now have a quotation written. It should read something like this. According to Kelly Field, quote, debt-free college, a concept that seemed wildly improbable just months ago, is quickly becoming a centerpiece of the 2016 presidential campaign, end quote. You should start your quotation with some sort of signal phrase, including Kelly Field's name, and then add in word for word a section of the quote on the screen. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at paraphrasing. This section comes from the same article as the previous slide, and your task will be to paraphrase it. So you should pause the screen and then pause the video and then rewrite this paragraph in your own words. You should now have a paraphrase written. Your paraphrase might read something like this. A bold Democratic proposal is the free two-year college, which will appeal to those worried about the cost of higher education. In parentheses at the end, you should have the word Field so that we know which author it came from. Your paraphrase will sound different from everyone else's paraphrase, and that is the point of paraphrasing. You can rewrite this section in your own words in any way, and it will still be correct as long as you're not copying too many of the original words. Let's talk a little bit about general versus specific facts. This is something that often confuses students. They wonder when they need to cite a fact and when it's okay to leave it without a citation. It has to do with paraphrasing, because when you're writing a paraphrase or just ideas in general in your essay, you need to be aware of when these ideas come from a source. So we'll start with common knowledge facts. These are ones that a reasonably well-educated person should be expected to know. So if you think about college students in America, if they would know this fact, then you do not need to cite it. You don't need to go look for a source about it or anything like that. You can just use it straight in your paper. Well-known facts are ones that many people may know, or ones that can easily be looked up. This is sort of a gray area, and so if you're not certain whether it should be cited, go ahead and include the citation. Well-known facts are ones that are easily looked up, so I like to think of them as ones that I can Google and I don't have to click on a website to find the answer. So when was George Washington born? I can find that very easily. Also included in well-known facts are things like dictionary definitions. These would be things that are very easy to look up, and so you don't need to necessarily cite them. Facts that you do need to cite are obscure or specific facts. These are facts that a limited group of people may know. So only doctors might know this, or only educators might know this, or only people who study a certain concept or topic would know this. So these are the types of facts that you definitely need to cite. Anything that's very specific that people wouldn't just generally have in their knowledge bank, you need to cite. The last thing that you need to cite are statistics. These are numerical data that a specific group, organization, or person has produced, and these are very important to cite. Every statistic in your paper needs a citation Because they are numerical data, they do change over the years, and they're also pretty easy to misuse, so we need to know exactly where that came from. So here's a little quiz for you. Which of the following facts need a citation? America established independence on July 4, 1776. Does not need a citation. Potatoes are the world's fourth largest crop following rice, wheat, and maize. This does need a citation. This is a statistic. An abacus is a computing device made of rods and movable counters. Now this is a little bit of a gray question because you might not have known this. However, this is a definition, and definitions do not need to be cited. They are considered well-known information. Emily Dickinson published only a handful of poems in her lifetime. This one does not need to be cited. This is again considered well-known information. A handful is not a specific amount, so we don't really need a citation for this. Edgar Allan Poe scandalously married his 13-year-old cousin in 1835. This does need a citation because it is a very specific fact. Although we can look up the year of his marriage very easily, the fact that he scandalously married her is a specific fact and does need to be cited. Topeka is the capital of Kansas. This one should be common knowledge and does not need to be cited. The next thing we're going to talk about is summary. And a summary is where is very similar to a paraphrase in that you take the author's ideas and rewrite them in your own words. In a summary, though, you do want to include the title and author of what you're summarizing. You also include the big, broad main idea rather than specific details. And you want to consider the entire work or an entire section of a work. So as a challenge, go ahead and pause the video and summarize the plot of your favorite movie. You should now have a summary written. So you've chosen your favorite movie and written out a summary in maybe one sentence or two. So it might sound something like this. The Lion King is the story of a lion cub who watches his father die and blames himself. With the help of friends, he grows up to defeat his uncle and claim his father's throne. So, big idea summarized into one or two sentences. You always include, remember, the title, so you should start off with the title of the movie. Here's a handy chart to tell whether or not you need a citation. This goes along with everything we have previously talked about in this video. So if you ever have trouble, come back to this screen and check yourself. So the first question you ask is, are you using the author's words? If you answer yes, then you have written a quotation, so it's word for word that the author has written. Use quotation marks around the passage and add a signal phrase with it. If you answer no, the second question you want to ask is, are you using the author's ideas? If you answer no, then you've written your own sentence and you don't need a citation. Typical sentences like this are ones such as your thesis statement, topic sentences, things like that. If you answer yes, I did use some of my author's ideas, then you want to include an in-text citation at the end of the sentence. This concludes our discussion of paraphrasing, summarizing, and quoting. You will want to watch the next video for ties for this concept into plagiarism.